how has racing impacted you personally?
Yeah, racing did for sure give me lessons outside of the track. It did help with a routine, also spirit collaboration, working with the team, with your mechanics, you're not just driving alone. There's a lot of people engaged as well, getting the car ready, etc. You have to be able to communicate with them, share your thoughts and ideas about the car. Also with training, when you start to train, it's a dominoes effect to a lot of things in life. And I think racing was a big part for me to train. And then I train, even though I'm not actively engaged in a championship, I'll still be training. So it's a domino effect for sure. It's a lot of things.
Abdullah, this is probably a conversation that I would have loved to have in 2010, because in 2010 was when I first got into racing. I watched the Senna documentary, and ever since then, I fell absolutely in love with racing. And it's the mental focus, the ability to physically control your mind and your body that I find so impressive. And I've always wanted to ask somebody what it's like being behind the wheel, what kind of mental focus you need, what kind of physical focus you need, and how you deal with the challenges of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is a great movie, actually. It's one of those movies that I always remember and watch. But yeah, for sure, I agree. Racing, it's among those sports where requires vigorously training in your mental state and your physical state. They go as important. And of course, there's strategies you can develop and work on, that will help you in the long run. So, for example, in the physical aspect, when training is, it's important to train endurance, your reflexes. These are some things that really help you in racing. You see, a lot of professional top tier athletes, they like to ride, for example, the bike. And the reasoning is because compounding muscles, help with physical training. We know when you're riding a bike, I'm talking about outdoors, you're using your feet, you're using, your core, your hands, your vision, what's around you. And even though it's in your subconscious, those things help you develop, in your physical. And it also goes with your mental, your mental ability to, sustain the same movement for a long period of time. So that's in the physical aspect. And the mental aspect, which personally, it has benefited me the most. Meditation, for example, is something that really helps, breathing, because, for example, it's just the small things, when you're driving. If I can just give an example out of just thinking about it. There was one time where I realized, and my coaches also realized, that there was a lot of mistakes happening during the first part of my race, and then the second part and third part, you'd see me come closer, to the competitors. And there was one time where we put a heart rate strap, and then we saw that my heart rate just before the race was 170, which is, the same as a sprint, which is considered, actually really high. And then when we saw my heart rate was that high, we realized that I'm over alert. Yeah, basically I was feeling over alert, which, it stimulated my excitement more, which led to more mistakes happen at the beginning of the race. We had to find ways to control my heart rate. And breathing was something that helped. Taking deep breaths. When you take deep breaths, obviously you slow down, your heart rate. And in the other case, for example, there's other drivers, their heart rate is super low. They're like at a resting heart rate right before the race. So I feel, it's being able to see your threshold heart rate, and being able to stay on that threshold for which is like 130 beats per minute. For my case, there's a calculation, you do it. It's 220 minus your age and 70% of that. And that's your threshold of focus. Anything above, you're not going to be able to stay in that, it's going to be exhausting for your heart. Anything below, you're not as alert. So breathing was something that helped me, control my heart rate, visualization. 5-10 minutes before the race. I like to put my helmet and just visualize, the lap. Remember my breaking points, my epics, and that helped me put myself in a more focused state. Yeah, those are things. Also routine, thinking about it now, associating your brain with a routine pre going into the car. So, a lot of professional athletes, you'll see them do it more often. Amateurs, not so much. But as simple as, listening to music, I put one song at every race, before every race for the past 10 years, let's say. And every time I listen to that same song, it's Hans Zimmer, by the way, Lost But One. It's great music. But every time I hear that song, my brain is directly associated with a race. So it puts me in the focus state, much like it triggers it.
There's a lot of ritual in it. I think that's really interesting, and especially when you're talking about like the heart rate and all of these different mechanisms. I think that people overmiss how much math and science actually goes into sports in that way, which is really interesting because there's so much precision with it. Of course, you have to make sure like that your mental focus is there, your physical focus is there, but then there's the numbers in between that help you reach your max peak in each race in whatever sport you're doing, right? And then that ritual seems like something that really grounds you. And when you talk about the visualization, I'm curious to know, are you visualizing yourself doing the race or completing it?
I'm visualizing the lap just alone, with no distractions, as if I'm in the car, exactly driving like a qualifying lap, and taking my, feeling, every turn as well, feeling where the braking points, because when you do a lap, you have to with your braking points, you have to put some references, for your braking points. So that's what I visualize mostly, where I brake, getting the feel, just to put myself in the focus.
Like putting yourself already in the position, like taking the steps so that you already memorize them and you're just doing them on the way.
Yes, obviously things change in the race, but more of mental preparation, right? Just it's more of the mental preparation to stay focused and eliminate, the distractions.
And do you still find it now challenging to get behind the wheel? Or is it a challenge even coming from getting just behind the wheel? And is it the pressure of it, of making sure that you got everything, you hit all the right marks? Or is it just the pressure, the adrenaline of everything that ties into racing, the pressure of making sure everybody else is satisfied? Like, what is the biggest challenge of getting behind the wheel?
For me, I feel it's the mental discipline required to stay focused under the adrenaline rush and the high-speed dynamics. I feel, maintaining focus for, during those circumstances is the most difficult part. It's the mental state for sure.
Yeah, I think it's, to me, like when I find racing really interesting because, again, it's that mental focus. I'm like, you literally have to be 24/7 alert.
Yep.
Or else something could happen, like for me, it's like after watching the Senna documentary and then seeing all these other racers in the history of like how, like the game really changed for them after they saw like obviously certain accidents, but those accidents still do happen to this day. And it's because of obviously other issues, but that's why that mental focus is so important. So you building that discipline is really interesting. And I'm curious to know a little bit more about that habit, those rituals, those routines. Are those things that you're only doing to prepare for races, or is that something you embody on a day-to-day basis?
Well, so let's see how I started, practicing. And I think racing, and just racing for me personally has helped me a lot. Gave me all those lessons beyond the track. Before I would, I feel I tend to work better when I have a goal. And so when there's a race coming up in a couple of weeks, during the season, you see me much more like mentally, focused. I have my training routine on, and then I try to apply all those disciplines in. So it started off with the racing, when I was much more actively in championships. But then I realized, the difference, how it impacted me in a personal level, as well as on the track. So I started to, see the benefits and actually practice it in my daily routines.
How do you deal with the daily fears that come up? Because whether it is from racing, whether it's from anything that comes up in life, how do you cope with the fears?
So I think I believe that I feel, the first thing you could do when you're facing fear is being able to recognize it, having, the ability to be aware that this is fear, and then having the ability to bounce back from it, whether by breathing, mindfulness. I feel everybody has their own type of way, but I do believe, that, the speed of when you bounce back from fear is what separates, most of the athletes. But in my case, it's definitely breathing, eliminating negative thoughts, making them positive. When I'm in the racetrack, trying to feel the joy of racing and eliminating external distractions or validation.
And how have you built that awareness over time?
I realized that being in fear caused me no good, like caused me more harm than good. So I guess maturity as well, being in life situations, being in fear, just never benefited me. So I realized that with time, and then you just start to be creative and find ways how can make your mental state as present as possible, eliminating those thoughts. I feel a lot of it has to do by tricking the mind, right? Like just if it's a negative thought, how can you make it positive? How can you just, one simple direction of thought could lead to, a whole different view of what's in front of you. So I started to realize that also by going out, seeking nature, it helped me a lot with, the spirituality answers. And it's definitely something that, can be practiced in any sport, whether you're racing, playing tennis, so on. So I guess it's just events of life.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think everybody learns more, gets more aware of themselves, of their actions, of their habits, like through experiencing whatever it is that comes at them in life, right? And it's through also challenging yourself, like having the ability to want better for yourself. Because you can sit in the fear and you can sit in the discomfort and choose that, or you can choose things differently, like you said, and like viewing things in a more positive lens rather than focusing in so much on the negativity, which takes training and time. But I think it's really important that you did highlight that, because it doesn't happen overnight, right? Yeah. You can't just wake up and be like, of course you can choose to be happy every single day, but you have to understand also that those negative thoughts, if those are the thoughts that you've been feeding yourself with on a day-to-day basis, and those thoughts are still going to come through, and it's just about challenging them. Right. So it really does make sense in how it has helped you in racing and in life in general. How do you support yourself when you don't necessarily feel like showing up, in times when you are tired, in times when you're feeling more anxious? How do you still continue to show up for yourself?
So in the racetrack, or like
in general, in life and the race, wherever it is.
So if in the race, if there's any, as any passionate driver, I feel showing up to the track is not the issue. But I feel, the external circumstances usually could affect. I try to just narrow my vision, remember why I'm doing it. Most of the times it comes back to the passion, the joy of driving, and tawakkul. A lot of the times I enter with tawakkul. I just putting my trust completely in God and just believing whatever the outcome is, it's the best outcome. So this helps me, go enjoy it, be a child in the track, but yeah, this definitely tawakkul is something that plays a big role in my life.
I'm really happy you said that, because I think tawakkul is like something I live by. And I think that it has been used so much in, I guess, Western societies now because of The Alchemist, you know, like there's a tawakkul, the idea of tawakkul in that book. And a lot of people take it as this westernized idea because of it in some capacity. And it's something that's like really instilled not only in our religion, our culture, and everything. And it really shows this surrender to just do the best and to trust that whatever's meant to be will be. God will take care of it. You did the best you can. And that's like a very freeing way to live. It just makes you feel at peace with yourself.
Absolutely.
What got you into it to begin with?
I think it's the adrenaline rush. Well, I used to be a very مشاغب يعني I was very super active, you know, when I was young. And I just wouldn't sit in my place. There was rules all the time, you know, like in the house, in school, everywhere we went, you know, there was rules. But when I remember my first few times driving karting, suddenly there was no rules, even though like, okay, you can't crash into someone, but there was no rules. And that just felt, you know, very presentful and made me feel alive. And I just started, you know, luckily the racetrack was next to our house. So it was an indoor. I was just driving thousands of laps after school. And then I realized that, oh, like, wow, like I really like this. Yeah, I remember there was also some person who used to work there in the cashier. He really I remember he told me that he just gave me a positive talk. He was like, you know, you're very young, and you know, if you keep going, you know, you can go to places. And I was very young, so I was very inspired by that. You know, someone um, to hear that, and I think that motivated me to keep going more. And then I found myself in the racing world, and I couldn't leave it.
Yeah, it's strange how things like that happen because usually the things that we end up doing are the things that we went into because we were trying to rebel in some kind of way, whether we were trying to rebel against our parents, trying to rebel against society, and we usually find our passions in that way. So it's interesting because it's like you wanted your freedom, you wanted just space to breathe, to do your thing. How do you feel right now about where you're currently heading? Are you feeling happy with the direction you're going in, and where do you see yourself moving towards in the next couple of years?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. I do feel good about myself, especially getting back in racing. The season's gonna start in May, so I'm looking forward for that for sure. Did you ask where I see myself?
Yeah, where do you see yourself heading in the next couple of years?
Hopefully to the better. For me, it's continuous improvement. You know, the Japanese say kaizen, which is always trying to improve myself. Always trying to get, you know, better. Even though I'm still discovering myself, I'm gonna put the work in my career and in my racing, and really see, you know, where it goes. Definitely, I would like to be active and in racing throughout, and I will do what it takes, you know, to drive. And especially nowadays, you know, we're seeing a lot of opportunities, a lot of support, you know, with the Vision 2030 and the sports, you know, heading towards the vision. It's very exciting. I think it's a very exciting. Like Formula One was 2 weeks ago. Who would have thought, you know, Formula One to come to Jeddah? It's like a dream. You know, it was really like witnessing the first race was an absolutely dream. And you know, it's a lot of surprises. I feel for my end, I just gotta be ready, put in the work, and you know, see where it goes. I think it's a journey more than, you know, one direction I have.
Yeah. What inspires you and who inspires you the most right now?
So many things inspire me, honestly. Yeah, I don't have anyone specific. For me, it's phases, you know, in life that I just dig deep into and try to understand. You can say now I'm inspired by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. I'm reading a book about the purification of the heart, and it's making me aware of a lot of things. This is the phase I'm on right now, but in terms of inspiration, so many things. Even the development of the sports, getting people, it's so many things. Like this plant is for.
Yeah, I love that quality because it is beautiful to like recognize that everything is an inspiration. Truly, like me having a conversation with you right now, that's an inspiration for me. Like seeing somebody pursue their dreams, seeing somebody sitting here and confronting their own their own struggles in life, their own challenges, and like going through that. Like to me, that's all inspiring. So I appreciate it when somebody else can appreciate that everything else in this world is an inspiration. I do have a couple of fun questions for you. The greatest racer of all time, in your opinion?
I think I'll let you answer this question.
Ayrton Senna.
I mean, every driver, has their era, right?
Yeah.
But for me personally, it's Ayrton Senna. He did change the sport a lot.
Yeah. Niki Lauda is also, I think, an incredible.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, there's plenty out there, so
Yeah.
not to discriminate against any of them. If you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be, and why?
Thing is, I never think of what if, what could. It's this is the situation, and this is the situation. But probably having the ability to manipulate time. First off, time is moving fast. Sometimes you don't understand time. What is it? But I think the ability to manipulate time. If you can, learn from your past and have the ability to see in the future, I think it opens up a lot of possibilities, opportunities.
Well, I'd say that you could technically manipulate time right now because time is not linear. At least in my opinion, you can travel back in the past, you can go into the future, you can tap into any version of yourself at any time zone. So
You need to teach me that.
yeah. If you could celebrate you becoming the top racer of all time today, how would you celebrate that legacy? Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you invite? You don't know?
I wouldn't be political though. I guess develop a program that gives opportunities for people to pursue a passion. Yeah, probably, but I'm not sure until I'm put in the spot.
Yeah. Well, I have two final questions for you. The first one is, what would you say to anybody who is wanting to pursue a dream that is either too scared because it's too late, they feel like that they left that dream and there's no way to come at it, and they're too scared right now?
I think courage. I think there's three words. You can. For me, at least, I live by. I would say courage. Discipline and tawakkul. So having the courage, to face your fears, having the discipline to keep moving and keep going and doing what you have to do. Tawakkul, putting your full trust in God and believing whatever the outcome is for the best. So I think if you have to, like, if you live by those three, you'd overcome a lot of obstacles.
What was your support system like when you were first getting back into racing?
I think look, times has changed from now, and we're seeing it change year by year. I like when we started racing, there was a very small community. Everybody who used to race used to know each other. So our support was very was much smaller than now for sure. It's gained a lot of popularity right now. People understand motor racing much more. Because motor racing, there's you need sponsors to back your funding for driving, getting into racetracks. And I remember I was very eager to get sponsors for a championship one time, so I went and visited some companies with a whole presentation, and literally most of the time I was educating, people about motor racing, sponsorship. One of the companies asked me, "But do you play soccer?" So it was very minor at that point. But I do thank my family for sure, for putting the trust, from my mother for allowing me. I remember it was a little bit, it was a hurdle for her to accept it. But after she came a couple of races, she wouldn't watch, but then she saw the excitement in me, so I guess that kept her going. Also, my friends, yeah, I think it's very important to have a support system, for sure. I'm very thankful for my friends and family. But as a sport, I think now it's gaining a lot of popularities, and yeah.
Good support is always helpful. It always is encouraging, motivating, keeps you on track, and it definitely makes you feel that support that you are being held to do the things that you're trying to do in life. So
Yeah.
it is really important.
Yeah. Also, having that self-doubt, a lot of the time it's very easy for our brain to self-doubt ourselves, whether we're having a bad race day, bad day. And having people, the right people around you can really push you back up. I've realized that with some events, yeah.
Yeah, the good, that's exactly it. It's the reason why support is so necessary for each and every single person is because they help you through the challenges, through the downs. They help keep you on track, keep you humble, but also keep you reminding you of why you're there, why you're doing this. So support is necessary, I will say. And the final question is if there is a motto that you live by that you would wish other people to instill in themselves.
Continuous improvement, honestly. Yeah, it's with everything, whether it's business, whether it's self-development, always trying to improve yourself, just even the small steps, it makes big steps. So for me, it's continuous improvement. Kaizen.
Kaizen. Thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you sharing all this information because I know that there are people who want to pursue a dream that are scared to, and people who are interested in racing, who want to get onto the track, who have that fear. And I'm sure that you have given people so much tools to use, whether that is how to deal with their mental challenges, their physical challenges, and tapping more into an abundant mindset and to having that trust and that faith in God through tawakkul. So I appreciate you and I thank you so much. And I know that there's going to be so much goodness, inshallah, in your future.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.